Good morning, everybody. So, my name is Bettina Frohlich, and I have the pleasure to have somebody really special this morning. Welcome, Dan Niederer. So, if you could just say two words, who you are, and also especially about what you're doing. Your brand is now 10 years old, and we are really happy to have you with us. So, I give you the possibility to introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Bettina. Thanks for having us here. Obviously, it's the two of us. So, my name, as you mentioned already, is Dan Niederer. A lot of people that just know me as the Sevenfriday guy. That's how it all started 10 years ago. This is Arnaud Duval, co-founder, head of creation, head of design, head of craziness. He is really very much behind this whole creation of a product, which I believe really in 10 years become very recognizable and created and cultivated a shape and a culture of its own. For my background, quickly, I'm already watch industry damaged, so I have my history in the watch industry. I represented companies, restructured actually companies that represented different Swiss brands from, let's say, $1,000 up to 100,000, 150,000. So throughout the range. So you can imagine what's in there, right? 10 years ago or 12 years ago, I moved back to Switzerland, and that's how I met Arno as well. I invested in a design studio, and based on design studio, we launched Sevenfriday 10 years ago, which was more than just a business project, because for us, Sevenfriday represents, first of all, a life attitude. Sevenfriday is how we choose we would like it, and I don't mean it works every day, but how we would like to live our day. You get up on a Monday morning, it feels like a Friday, pretty good. So that's a bit the spirit.
So this is where the name comes from.
This is where the name comes from. I mean, there's obviously a bit more behind, but I like to keep things simple because it's only people that make things complicated. I think life could be much easier. And yes, I think it's important for a brand. The brand is for me a bit like a person. So it's very important to have a philosophy, but not a philosophy that's designed and redesigned by a marketing team, depending on the demographics or the social environment at the moment. That's why we decided our philosophy is in the name. Once it's in the name, you can't change it. It's also very simple. It's carpe diem. Now, we all know that, but how many of us really remember that and try to live it at the same time? Because I believe it would make the world a little bit a better place if everybody just tried, to be a bit more content in what they're doing, to appreciate a bit more what they're having. And if not, then try to make a change. And it can be small things like, go in a shop and have a smile in the face. More often than not, it makes people smile back at you, right? And already it's a bit of a better place. So it's very idealistic in that sense. And actually, the person who came up with the name, which in a way it's a weird name, to be honest, especially for the watch industry, it's him.
That's weird.
Really good.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when you started so with the first watch or with the idea of the design, and what could you tell me a little bit more of this period where everything started from scratch?
Yeah, I came just at the beginning point, and then Arno can try to explain what went on in his head. But
If I can, yeah.
we were clear what we want to create. We wanted to create something in a certain price segment that's really challenging a bit what's being done. We felt, and it's not up to me to criticize the industries, but just there is a limitation of creativity in this price point. Whenever you want something unique, you have to go deep into your pocket, right? And I felt like, yeah, if the price doesn't matter, it's much easier to be creative. So that's one thing. The second thing, we wanted to, from the beginning, to create a brand that is standing for clear values, but also represents itself clearly in terms of design. So we didn't want to have a round watch. We didn't want to have what a lot of brands are doing, like do a flyer chronograph, for example. Nothing against it. They're beautiful watches, but there's so many out there. And what's really the difference? And so we went out there, and that's where Arno came in, and we had maybe something in mind. And then when he came, there was another level. And I think that's where his talent comes in very strongly, that he's always managing to capitalize what we want to do and then apply his creativity to create something that's even beyond that. But maybe you can add a bit.
Try. Thank you. Oh yeah, it's true that why would we come with something that already exists and try to make it a bit better or even worse? So we created to have our own DNA, and beyond the DNA, to apply on the product a certain design language that would be fresh, new, that is contemporary, fits the trends, but the trends on a long-term base, not opportunistic, but something that can last in terms of identity. And that was really a plan. It's not something like happened. So yeah, the recipe came like the idea was to have a shape, really, not starting from a round classic watch, but something that has a shape, but a soft shape, not something really aggressive, and bring something really detailed and a lot of work on the design perceived value, on the dial, especially all the levels, the complexity, and yeah, that's why we came with the box and the interface inside. So you have this duality on the watch that I think creates the design language. Also the work on the visual complication. The movement is if you take it as it is, it's not that complex. But to make it visually more complex than it is, that's what I like to work on, I think, and it's that was the challenge.
Yeah, we call it visual complications, really, because sometimes people misunderstand. More complicated doesn't mean better. So what we want is
more problem.
Normally more problem, yeah. And we want to give for accessible price. Now we have to be careful depending on where people coming from, what background. But for the a valuable product with a higher perceived value than what you pay finally, with a visual impact that's really outstanding and unique. So it's not a watch to blend in particularly. It's not a watch where you want in the crowd. It's a watch you probably get a lot of comments on. So you need to be comfortable with that. So it's more for the maybe trendier or trendsetter or self-confident people, maybe that's a better expression, than just the followers. And it actually really worked. I mean, you have a strategy that's one thing. That doesn't mean that the world and the consumer is going to accept it. So the ultimate test is really the consumer. And I remember in 2012 at the Basel Fair, when they still existed,
Yes.
I walked around with two prototypes. So I had the P1 and the P2. They were the two first watches or prototype of those watches. And I walked around, and since we had history in that watch industry, knew a lot of people, and asked, and the estimation of the price point was between $3,000 and $12,000. So that was a good feedback to receive that, okay, the perceived value is really there. So we sometimes try to just be rational and not going with the trend, which can be painful, by the way. Like, you're supposed to make Swiss made, otherwise it's not a good watch, right?
That's a little bit what's happened in the world. Just a question, to coming back a little bit about the part of the design. Where comes the inspiration from?
You mean on a specific product or for the branding?
Of these two watches that you created initially and you presented, for example, for the very first time to different watch experts or potential clients?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, at the very, very beginning of the brand. Well, it's clearly industrial. I think it's the passion of the mechanics, the detailing of the the screws. No, it's a joke. The old, let's say it's the layers, the mix of material, the different finishings, and also the way the mechanics intricates with and the relation they have one with each other. That's why the balance wheel looks to be related to the parts that it's beside, and it's all connected. Actually, it seems to be alive.
If I can maybe add, I mean, you had a very clear, I think, inspiration. As you said, it's industrial, general, the industrial theme, which is very strong, very dominant in a way in all the urban cities around the globe. And I think we all touched somehow historically as well through families with industrial plants. It was the Industrial Revolution. They're now today the modern industry, but there's also classic industry which are modernized into lofts, into restaurants, and so on. And that's why you structured at the beginning, like the first launch was a P1.
Yeah.
Stainless steel, polished, very silver colorish, which represents industrial revolution. So the modern representation of industry, more like this chrome and polished steel. Then you have the P2, which was the second watch, which represents the industrial revolution. 1920s, copper colors, more the warmer colors. So both give a very contrasting theme based on a very similar product-based design, just based on the finishings and based on the colors. And the third one was the industrial engine, which represents like this was inspired by the back end of a Ducati coffee racer, the first one. So it is about the engines, but not just a specific car or specific, like it's so often nicely done in the watch industry. Oh, this is like a Porsche, or this is like a Mercedes. No, it was just a design element of anything with engines that's more representative for not sports, but a sporty feeling.
That's for the petrol head.
And if you give us a little bit more information about where you are coming from, both, perhaps that we understand this this idea what you wanted to bring out with this watch. Where's your background? So and why you have chosen when you were younger, when you said once, okay, I want to be watchmaker or want to be in this field. Is that something what you have ever, or it's something what once you said, okay, that's what is my idea to go through?
Yeah, that's going to be a strange story. Should I start?
Yeah, please.
Okay, I start. Pure accident. Pure accident. People think just because I'm Swiss, yeah, naturally banking, chocolate, cheese, or watches. But no, not at all. By trade, I'm a lawyer. Okay, I did my law degree in Zurich, and I hated the idea of becoming a lawyer and reading contracts like the rest of my life. But I thought, once you start something, you finish it. You never know when you need it. So I did my master. I looked for a job, and I was actually very fascinated by IT, information technology in general. I worked at that time at Compaq, my first job. Because that's interesting. What fascinated me is the fast pace. You're launching a new laptop. 3 months later, you have to depreciate it because there's already a new processor coming out. So this fast pace of innovation, I loved it. And here I'm ending up in the watch industry, which is kind of contrary to it. But in between, I wanted to travel. I got an offer to manage and restructure a company in Australia, which was a subsidiary of a Swiss trading house, and they happened to deal in luxury goods, accessories and watches, and that's the accident that happened. So the mission was to go abroad and see the world, and it happens to be that I'm dealing with watches. I did for 10 years throughout Asia Pacific. So I lived in Australia, I lived in Singapore, I lived in Tokyo, I lived in Bangkok with my family, and I kept on for this company, going to new countries where things didn't work so well, restructured. We represented many brands like Audemars Piguet, Jaeger LeCoultre, Breitling, Parmigiani, Graham, Maurice Lacroix, Mauboussin, Bally, Montblanc, maybe some more, I don't know. So I saw a lot of things, and it was cool because a lot of those brands, not the last, some of them are really lesser known, like a Maurice Lacroix, like a Graham, they were really the underdogs, and they were the interesting ones. So how are you going to compete with the bigger ones? So this 10 years was very intense, very demanding, but very good school for me. But after 10 years, it was enough. And at this time, I decided, okay, it's now or never. I want to launch my own brand. I'm not saying I can do better. I'm just saying I want to do different. I do not agree with a lot of things. And I'm particularly talking about the underdog brands. I'm not particularly agreeing with the way they wanted to do things, and they wanted to push me to do things in those markets because I have a problem, I'm a bit stubborn. And at that point, I moved with my family back to Switzerland. I invested bought half the design studio in Bienne, where Arnaud was working. So that's how we merged. Maybe you want to add your history.
Yeah, well, for me, it's a different story, of course.
It's not the same.
No, because well, it could have been, but no.
You're not a lawyer.
No, I'm not a lawyer. No.
That's a good thing.
No, I was actually part of those lucky kids that they know what they want to do at the age of 10, and I wanted to be a designer. Well, a car designer at that age, because I was fascinated by cars and everything that moves and that had wheels. So yeah, I made everything to achieve that goal. And but when I really studied the industrial design in France from '99 to 2004, I discovered that design is not just the style of cars, or just it goes way beyond that. It's really a methodology. It's an old process, and that's really how you bring an added value to the product. But not only in terms of style, you have the marketing aspects, the engineering aspects, and you have to be sort of a platform between all those part of companies. And I found it really interesting in my different internship I had during my studies. But I never had an internship in watches, but I started to work in the watch industry at the end. So yeah, for more than 10 years, I worked in the design agency, dedicated to specialized in watches in Switzerland. So yeah, I could touch a lot of different customers from middle range to a high range, and learned a lot of experience through that adventure, and then that's where we get to the connection with Dan after 10 years at the agency. And
yeah, that's 12 years ago, and I think that where we met is really geographically in Bienne.
Yeah,
nice place, and but more importantly, we had a shared philosophy. Maybe because we like watches, but we're not watch nuts. There's more in life than just watches, and I think that's important. But also in terms of, we are both passionate about branding. Now, not branding the way we maybe mostly commercially understand it, but branding for us is very much about psychology, about how people perceive. What does it bring them? What is the long-term justification for brand and for product as well? And so that was one common determinator. The second part was the way we wanted to create a brand with clear values and attitudes. And also interesting that we come from completely different spectrums. So we have a similar view of things, but where he's coming very strongly from the product side, I come very strongly from the consumer side, from the emotional side as well. And I think together makes an interesting mix, because you need to constantly challenge yourself a little bit with different aspects to achieve hopefully better.
So finally, you have written a new chapter of style. Could we speak now about an iconic watch after 10 years?
Well, were you saying the first 10 years we didn't have any iconic watches?
No, not at all, for sure. No, but in general, I would say it takes a little bit time to establish you as a style icon, I will say. So from this point of view.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think when we launched in 2012, it was crazy. I mean, and we never expected what happened at that time. We got a lot of attention, a lot of credit, which helped us to really expand the business on a global level. So in that sense, it was a revolution. Then we had to consolidate. And some people came in the last and said, but you need to revolutionize again. I was like, that's not in the nature of things. Look into history. You can't do every year a revolution. That wouldn't be healthy. So there's also something to be said for an evolution. But yes, you're right. The 10th anniversary was for us an important point to say, hey, first of all, a lot of people told us, not us, in our back. Sevenfriday is just a trend, it's going to disappear. No, we haven't disappeared. We're growing stronger as we go. And that was an important thing. And it's now 10 years, I think we have proven the time that we are staying. We also wanted always to tell people, yes, we're innovating, but people need to understand We don't have a big group. We don't have investors. We don't have credit lines behind us. Everything we do, we finance ourselves. So we don't have debts. We don't have any outside sources. So we are, if you want, really 100% independent. And that's a good thing because you can decide what you want to do. But at the same time, you don't have the same speed as others. But that's a choice you have to make. Now, the 3D you're referring to, that's something in the development since 1.5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew strategically where we want to go, but it was really this connection which suddenly happened with the world of additive manufacturing, aka 3D printing, which I think liberated the process. Okay, this is crazy. This is really cool. And that's why, and he's a bit the specialist in English names as a French native. No, because who gets to a name like 3D? But it really fits because the 3D liberated so many possibilities, gave so much freedom in creation that, I think it was pretty wild, right? The last 12 months, right?
Yeah.
Do you think also that you, because you at the beginning you started, you were very well known for your community events, and do you think that you finally through the years you created also through all this new manner to promote your brand, perhaps a strong community, and also that you really understand perhaps more than another brand your community because you're more close to this community?
I think the community, absolutely you're right. Since the beginning was very important. It started in 2013 with the first flash party in the Basel, in the British Embassy, the pub there at the corner for the Swiss hotel. It was really a spontaneous, more or less spontaneous party at that time with watch donation. So everybody shows up and went completely crazy. And that's really when it started. And we realized that there's a lot of people out there that like to connect with Sevenfriday. Some like the product, some less. Styles are personal, but the attitude a lot of people really appreciate and can connect to. And we cultivated it over the years. Whether we are better or worse than in reading customs than others, it's not up to me to judge. I can just say that we had always a very strong focus, be staying connected with our friends, if you want, because some are customers, some are not customers. But the important thing is to have this feedback. So last 2 years, for some weird reason, we haven't been traveling too much. But otherwise, before, we traveled all the time, multiple times a year to the different markets. It's not just because it's fun and we like different kind of foods. It's also a reason, but it's also because we want to connect with the different cultures, because we believe very strongly the feedback, inspiration we get from all the markets and all the consumers is influencing the development of the brand of Sevenfriday and its products very strongly. So we see ourselves very much as a global brand, much more than just a Swiss brand. We did then 2016. We started chipping all our watches. So all our products, not just the watches, also the eyewear, they have an NFC chip embedded, which is a passive. There's no power source inside, just for security reason. Because we realized we got, one side we got the success very quickly, and for that we are very grateful. But what happens with success? You get a lot of copies too. So in 2000, I started in 2014, really the development. We needed to find a way to protect our customers. And customer is not necessarily a watchmaker. And the customer doesn't even know in depth. So if they see something, how can they really justify? How can they know? So with the chip, since 2016, we gave our consumers the possibility to 100% recognize and differentiate a fake from a real Sevenfriday. That's one thing. But we also gave them the possibility to register their product. And before we knew it, we had 130,000 people registered. So there was always this willingness and maybe desire for people to be part of this community. In the last 12 months, we developed the application, we developed the possibilities. Now the whole NFT hypes helps as well because it's easy, because we just shift this digital twin we always had of our products, which is a certificate which is unbreakable, connected to the physical product. Now shift to an NFT technology, which just make it really sustainable for the very long time and not depending on our infrastructure.
So, do you also think that you are in a way a digital native brand?
I see. Yeah, I mean, I shouldn't tell that to my kids because they're gonna laugh at me. But well, in a different way. I grew up with a typewriter, but as a brand, yes, we grew predominantly at the beginnings through social media, only word to mouth connections, building and growing this community on one side, and on the other hand, social media. So in that sense, digital media or digital connection was very dominant since the beginning. But I think I never want to underestimate the real connection, the personal connections as well. Because I think us traveling, that's what we're missing the last 2 years, but this traveling and connecting with the people and being face to face and really for people also to see who these people are behind the brand, I think is a very, very important aspect. Because people not just buying products.
There is also a huge, I will say, a huge change in terms of, as you told me a little bit at the beginning, you tested things on Basel World and so on, and so now Basel World isn't existing anymore. There is now Geneva, in Geneva, more events and things like that. Do you think this is an advantage or a disadvantage for your brand?
I honestly, I don't think it makes a big difference for our brand because we have never really. We were one of those opportunists a bit, but we never took orders in Basel. We never did an exhibition. What we did is bar or party. So we did a nightclub once. We did a bar for the evening, and we said, "Look, everybody can come from other brands. I don't care. Just have a good time and try for 1 hour not to talk about watches only." There's more in life. So we just tried to counterbalance, and it started because our partners around the world wanted to see us. The last 2 years of Basel, we didn't go anymore. We go now to Geneva. Personally, what I like about the aspect, and always did. I mean, I remember 2001, first time in Basel World, the social aspect of things. You see people at the place. It's like a different planet. It's a bit of a bubble, but it's once a year you meet friends you're making over time in this industry, and it's a pity that doesn't exist anymore. And I think that there's a big value for that. Maybe now it's recultivated within Geneva. For us as a brand, it's obviously there's a lot of journalists, a lot of people going. They like to take the opportunity since they're traveling already to see us. Business-wise, I went to Basel and that time SCHH every year to both for many different brands. And it was always the question after, how many orders did you get? Right? When we started Sevenfriday, I was like, how does that make sense in the 21st century where everything can be digitally done? So you do meetings after meetings, you show the collection and you get your orders. And then if you're lucky, some brands you get it 6 months later. Some other brands, the more higher end, you might get it a year, 2 years, sometimes 3 to 4 years later. So it's completely crazy in today's day and age. And I believed, and then again, that's my personal belief, I believe it's just completely detached from the relevance of what's happening in the world today, also from the consumer. So it was celebrating itself a bit too much. So for us, we talk with our partners every week. We travel, or now we have this thing called Zoom and all the other digital medias. I mean, it's endless. And we take orders. So we invented, I mentioned the NFC chip we have. So we also invented a whole ecosystem. Basically, we have the application for our consumers to register, but we also have an application for our partners. So our partners, every time they need in the application, they can place the orders, which come automatically coming here. So we do that every month. Every month we do a forecast for the next 12 months. Based on those numbers, we discuss. So we try to turn things around, make the ordering process, make the reporting process an automatic tool based on, the tools we have today, and use the time of discussion more on productive and positive things. Because honestly, who enjoys to talk about which number in the Excel sheet is the correct one? Oh, and you send me the wrong Excel sheet, and what do you mean exactly? So we need those facts given, and then we need to use the time with our partners to create positive energy, because ultimately that's what the brand is about as well.
Mm-hmm. And what's next in the 10 upcoming years. We can't plan anymore like we planned before, but what's really next, I will say, in the upcoming future, so perhaps in 1 year, 2 years, what are you
We,
preparing?
are we planning anyway, and then it comes different. But I think that's a story of life. But it's cool. I mean, the thing is, if you people, some people say, "Well, I don't plan because I don't know how it comes," and I think that's an excuse. So, on product side, we have a very clear development plan where we have our existing collection, which stays, which we have a lot of novelties coming also this year, and we have now this, we call it the satellite collection, the 3D, and based on the technology we're doing there, based on the developments, there's a lot more to come over the next 2 to 3 years. So it's not just a one-off. There's a plan behind to further develop this concept, because we believe it helps us to express more. Because the price point is important for our customer, but to express ourselves and creativity and craziness, it's liberating to have this satellite collection. That's also why we keep it very limited. We have some other crazy satellite collections coming in the future. So I think that's from the watch side. We also, in the eyewear, we're developing further. We May the next collection comes out. In September, another collection comes out. So that's another thing. We have some other product development outside of this. So the accessories we had in development, we put it a bit on hold, to be honest, in these 2 years of craziness, just to be on a careful side. But we very much intend to do this as well, to restart that as well. It takes us time because we want to own all development, meaning he designs everything with his team. That sometimes slows us down, not because he's slow, but because we want to make sure it's our DNA, it's our design. We're not just giving, oh yes, can you develop something? Yeah, we picked this one, it's actually pretty nice. Yeah, let's do that. It's too opportunistic. And we believe opportunism is sometimes the killer of branding and of the longevity of a brand. So we have sometimes to go through the pain to bring out authenticity and a really quality at the end. That's on the product side. On a communication and distribution or branding side, more, it's very clear the community you mentioned before, that's at the forefront. So we invest a lot into this community because we have it there. We have a lot of loyal supporters and want to give them the platform. Now, this community is not something we profit that much from. Actually going to go a step further. So short term, we have now the collectibles, which are more for fun. We have the NFT certificate. We have the application of a platform where people can meet within the community. In the next 6 to 8 months, there's a lot more to come. There's also possibilities to win points in there. There's possibility at one stage also to become a part owner of this community. So the objective and the vision is really, we have this community, but what's the community worth if it's only directed by the brand? How objective and neutral can such a community be, and how powerful can it be? So I think at one stage we want to let go of the community and give it into the hands of the community members, where they can sell products and make money on it. They can sell maybe other brands as well outside of the watch industry. There may be other projects. So we want to really empower this community to engage on certain common values in there, but on the other hand also to be potentially a partner in future spaces we're opening, because that's another concept. Before the pandemic, now the last one was Kuwait we opened. Also in 2016, funny enough, at the same time we launched the chip, we also launched the space concept. The thing is, we don't like boutiques. I think boutiques are really boring, and for me, I don't like to go there. But I like experience. I like cool retailing, and I'm not saying we achieved it, but our idea was just, okay, we cannot do what we don't like, so we can't do boutiques. So we do space concept, which means it's a place where people meet people they like to spend quality time. We had one in Zurich. We have multiple throughout Asia and the Middle East. And the concept, yes, there are products, but they're in the background. There's a bar, there are drinks, there's coffee, there's stand-up comedy, there are live concerts. So it's really an ambience where things are happening. So it's, for me, the representation of the community in real life. So this we all want to bring together.
So if you have to say to explain your community in 5 words, what guys or woman or man are they? 5 words to explain how they are?
I think the members of our community, they share a certain passion for life, a certain positivity, and a certain attitude. It doesn't matter what gender, what nationality, what culture, what religion, what language, what age they are. And I think that's the cool thing. Sorry, there was more than 5 words, but I think it's really based on shared values more than any classic demographics.
Okay. And so
My
I don't.
part of it.
Sorry?
My dad is part of it.
Ah, really good. Last question, and then if you want to add something, you could. What's happened next in the You will go also to the metaverse?
Yeah, I think it's a funny thing. I mean, we're learning every day and get confused every day about metaverse, cryptocurrency, blockchain, NFTs, because everybody talks something, but there's very few people who really understand, I think. And I'm not saying we do yet. At the moment, direction is metaverse, yes. Because I think today we can all agree it's something happening. Nobody knows exactly what form and shape. But we also have to respect originally what we are, even digital native or not, we are product brand. So just to sell some digital watches, that is again for me too opportunistic for us. So we go in logical steps. Direction, metaverse, yes. NFT certification, and what is for the moment, I think the logical first step was using the technology of blockchain for the security of consumer data, or not for us, but consumers' data for himself in terms of certification. You know, in 21st century, it's very weird that you have a product and you have a certificate, but there's no connection. So yeah, they're saying, oh, there's a number, but okay, I mean, it's so easy to fake. I mean, how do I, as a buyer, I can really trust? And I find that difficult to understand because today there are technologies. Now, we have some development in this sense, but for us, and again, it's just for us was always important. So with the NFC chip, there is this connection. And it was just, as I mentioned before, a logical step to mint those certificates on a blockchain, which makes it really secure for the long term. Now, obviously, you have to be careful because, is it then sustainable because of energy resources? So you have to be careful which one you're using. But I think that was a logical step. Then the collectibles. Now, since 1 year about, we all know, you can get rich with collectibles in the basically in the digital world by doing artwork. I think 69 million or something was this, what was his name? People or something who sold his digital artwork. Fantastic, good for him. And there's like the ape, the bored ape, which is going through the roof. But that's not the intention. So the thing is people have fun with that. It's like, we used to have Panini pictures for the soccer teams. We still have, I think. There was Pokemon collectibles. So people like to collect.
Because there are so much.
So what we decided is, for new collections we're launching, we liaise with different artists. So the first one was Kata, a girl from Hungary. And she did the collectibles inspired by the inspiration of the product. So when you have to watch, when you go in the application, you can obtain this collectible. In the future, you can also sell it off if you want. It's all completely up to you. So these are a bit the steps we're taking. So we have a clear roadmap, which I can also share, where we're going further, as I mentioned before. So the community, the collectibles, the metaverse is still a bit further away, because the metaverse, people say, yeah, I'm going there. And then the question, what exactly going to do there? Which metaverse exactly you're going to go? Exactly. So to say, yeah, the metaverse is the vision, that's the strategy, that's an easy one, clearly. And I think when we talk about the metaverse, I think we're more talking about Web 3.0, makes for me more sense. It's an evolution which gives a different dimension, or merges a bit the whole gaming with the internet, and gives a different aspect to really convey in there, to connect in there. So yes, we see ourselves. We in a way we see us already being kind of part of, because this digital environment always was important, because in the application we give this platform in a digital way. How we're going to integrate in existing metaverse on wherever, whether it's Sandbox or whatever else there's out there, or Decentraland, today I don't know. I don't want to rush into it. We need, again, as I said, to come back. We need to build from our product into the digital world. But when we do this step into the digital or into the NFT world, we have to make sure this is also credible for the people coming from the more digital side of things. My feeling is sometimes traditional brands, they're super opportunistic. I mean, sometimes it's cool what they do. And there's brands like Moncler, they do some really cool stuff. I think Gucci is very strong in doing some cool stuff. So there's very good samples. But there's others that just heard, oh, now you have to do an NFT. Let's do an NFT. But there's not more thought behind. And I find that a bit of pity. And it doesn't really help the luxury industry or the watch industry so much.
Okay. So thank you very much for exchanging with all of us. Do you want to add something, and then we?
Well, that's a very dangerous question, because we then gonna.
I don't ask it. I don't ask it. So no. Okay, we stop.
No, I think the only thing to add, you mentioned it before, the 3D is really a milestone for us, which happens now for the 10th anniversary, and that's very important. It is really a big step, and I think we're very proud of that, right?
Yeah, I'm normally very excited, but it's too early for me in the morning, that's why. But I'm very excited about it.
It was tough to get him here before 9 o'clock.
It's
just for you. No, I think we said it all, maybe too much for some people. I think important is the message. Sevenfriday is first an attitude, then it's a brand, and then it's a product. Doesn't mean one is less important than the others, but I think the chronological order represents a bit how we work and how we approach things.
Okay, so thank you very much for this nice exchange, and all the best, and let's keep in touch.
Absolutely, same to you. Thank you so much, Bettina.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.